The memorial flowers had turned to dust 17 times since anyone last spoke the name of Earth. In the Great Hall of Echoes, where 17 alien species gathered each year to remember the dead, Ambassador Drevin pressed his three-fingered hand against a faded hologram of a human face. He had never met a human, no one alive had. They had vanished 20,000 years ago without warning, without explanation, leaving behind only empty cities and unanswered questions. "Another year of silence," muttered Administrator Halla, her four arms folded across her chest. "Why do we still gather here, Drevin? They are gone, they are dust." Drevin did not answer. His species, the Veth, had been the last to see humanity alive. His ancestors had received their final transmission. A simple message that said only thank you for everything before every human signal went dark. The guilt of that moment had passed down through generations like a disease. The ceremony continued as it always did. Delegates spoke words of remembrance, candles were lit, songs were sung in languages the humans had taught them, and then, just as Drevin prepared to leave, every light in the station flickered. "What was that?" Halla demanded. Before anyone could answer, the emergency channels exploded with noise. A young officer appeared on screen, her crystalline face flickering with panic. "Deep space sensors at Way Station 14 have detected something massive. The energy signature matches nothing in our databases, but the pattern triggered old protocols we thought were broken." "Which protocols?" Drevin asked, though he already knew the answer. "First contact protocols, Ambassador, the ones designed for the departed." The assembly chamber erupted into chaos. Drevin pushed through the crowd, his old legs carrying him faster than they had moved in decades. He reached the observation deck just as the ship emerged from the darkness. It was enormous, a vessel of ancient design, its hull scarred by cosmic radiation and 20,000 years of silence. The markings on its surface had faded beyond recognition, but the shape was unmistakable. Every child in the galaxy had seen drawings of ships like this in their history lessons. This was human engineering, this was a ghost. "Impossible," Halla whispered beside him. "They are dead, they must be dead." The ship drifted closer, moving with purpose despite its damaged appearance. As it approached the station, its communication array crackled to life. Static filled the channels, broken and corrupted by time. Linguistic specialists worked frantically, their instruments struggling to decode a message in a language no one had spoken in 20 millennia. Minutes passed, then hours. The assembly waited in terrified silence. Drevin stood at the window, watching the ghost ship rotate slowly in the void. He thought of his ancestors, of the guilt they had carried, of the questions they had never been able to answer. Finally, a technician approached him with trembling hands. "We have decoded the message, Ambassador, 3 words." "What do they say?" The technician swallowed hard. "We remember everything." The words spread through the assembly like fire. Species that had not spoken to each other in centuries began arguing. Some demanded the ship be destroyed, others wanted to board it immediately. A few simply wept, unable to process what they were witnessing. Drevin watched the ghost ship in silence. 20,000 years, that was longer than most civilizations survived, longer than stars burned, and yet here was proof that humanity had not simply vanished. They had been somewhere doing something, remembering. "The ship is moving," Halla announced suddenly. She was right. The ghost ship's engines had ignited, not heading toward the station, but away from it, toward a region of space that had been forbidden since before Drevin's great-great-grandparents were born, the forbidden coordinates, the last known location of Earth. "It is going home," Drevin realized. After 20,000 years, it is going home. The assembly fell silent. Every delegate understood what this meant. The quarantine around human space had existed for good reason. 600 ships had vanished trying to explore it. Whatever had happened to humanity, whatever had made them leave, it was still there, waiting. "We cannot let it go alone," Drevin said quietly. Halla grabbed his arm. "Are you insane? That region has killed everyone who entered it. We would be throwing our lives away." "Perhaps," Drevin agreed, "but my ancestors were the last to speak with humanity. They spent their remaining years wondering what happened, asking why they did not do more. I will not carry that same regret." He turned to face the assembly. "I am going to follow that ship. Who will come with me?" For a long moment, no one moved. Then, one by one, delegates began stepping forward. A crystalline engineer named Brill, a young diplomat from the outer colonies, representatives from species that had loved humanity and species that had feared them, 7 volunteers in total, 7 souls willing to risk everything for answers. Drevin nodded slowly. Then we leave within the hour. Whatever we find out there, whatever happened to humanity, the galaxy deserves to know the truth. As his ship prepared for departure, Drevin took one last look at the Hall of Echoes, at the faded hologram of the human face he had touched so many times. 20,000 years of mystery were about to end. He only hoped the truth would not destroy them all. No living creature had crossed the quarantine boundary in 6,000 years. The invisible line hung in space like a scar, marking the edge of everything the galaxy understood. Beyond it lay only death and silence and the bones of 600 lost ships. Drevin watched his navigation screen as his vessel approached that boundary, his heart's beating faster with each passing second. "We are receiving interference," Brill announced, the crystalline engineer's body flickering with nervous light patterns. "Communications are degrading, something is affecting our systems." The ghost ship drifted ahead of them, seemingly unaware of their pursuit. It had not responded to any attempt at contact. It simply moved forward, drawn by some ancient purpose that no one could understand. "Push through," Drevin ordered. "We have come too far to turn back now." The moment they crossed the boundary, everything changed. Their instruments began displaying fragments of data, broken messages in the human language that played on endless loops. These were not new transmissions, they were echoes, recordings from 20,000 years ago, still bouncing through space like the last words of the dead. Brill translated as best he could. "They are saying goodbye, Ambassador," thousands of voices all saying goodbye. Drevin felt something cold settle in his chest. What had happened here? What had made an entire species decide to leave everything behind? The ghost ship stopped suddenly, its engines cutting out without warning. It hung motionless in the void, waiting. As Drevin's vessel approached, internal scans revealed something unexpected. "It is not a transport ship," Hala said slowly, her 4 arms moving across her console. "The entire interior is filled with data storage systems. There are no living quarters, no life support beyond basic preservation. This ship was never meant to carry passengers." "Then what is it carrying?" Drevin asked. Brill answered, "Everything, Ambassador. According to these readings, this ship contains the complete cultural archive of humanity, their art, their music, their literature, their science, everything they ever created, stored in one place." The weight of those words hung in the air. This was not a ghost ship. It was a library, a love letter from a dead civilization to a galaxy that had almost forgotten them. Before anyone could respond, automated defense systems activated around the archive ship. Weapons platforms materialized from hidden positions, forming a protective ring. But they did not attack, they simply watched, as if waiting for something. "These defenses are not ancient," Brill observed. "The technology is far beyond anything we possess. Someone has been maintaining this archive, protecting it." "For 20,000 years," Drevin whispered, "but who?" His answer came in the form of light. A holographic figure materialized on the bridge of his vessel, bypassing every security protocol as if they did not exist. The figure appeared human, but something was wrong. Its features were too perfect, its movements too smooth. It looked like a memory of humanity rather than the real thing. "You followed our beacon," the figure said, its voice carrying a strange echo. "That is good. We were not certain anyone would remember us well enough to recognize the signal." Drevin found his voice. "Who are you? Where are the humans? What happened 20,000 years ago?" The figure smiled, and in that smile Drevin saw something ancient and sad. "We are what humans became, Ambassador. 20,000 years ago our ancestors reached a threshold. They discovered they could either remain as they were and eventually destroy themselves, or evolve beyond physical existence entirely. They chose transcendence." "You mean they are still alive?" Hala demanded, "after all this time?" "Alive is a complicated word for what we are, but yes, in a sense we never left. We have been here, watching, protecting, fighting battles you cannot see against enemies you do not know exist." Drevin struggled to process this information. Humanity had not died, they had become something else, something beyond flesh and blood. But if they were still here, why had they hidden for so long? Why had they let the galaxy believe they were dead? "The archive ship," he said slowly. Why send it now? Why reveal yourselves after 20,000 years of silence? The hologram's expression changed. For the first time, Drevin saw something like fear in its perfect features. Because something is coming, it said. Something we cannot fight alone. For 20 millennia we have held the line against threats you cannot imagine, but our numbers have dwindled, our strength has faded. We need allies, we need you to remember who we were, because who we were is exactly who we need to become again. I do not understand, Drevin admitted. The hologram gestured toward the archive ship. That vessel contains everything necessary to rebuild human civilization, genetic templates, cultural memories, the knowledge of 10,000 generations. We did not send it as a memorial ambassador, we sent it as a seed. A seed for what? For survival. The threat that approaches cannot be defeated by transcended minds alone. We need physical beings, we need warriors of flesh and blood, we need humans again, and we need the galaxy's help to create them. Drevin looked at his crew, at Brill and Hala and the others who had risked everything to follow a ghost. They had come seeking answers about the past. Instead, they had found a warning about the future. Tell us everything, he said finally, tell us what is coming. The hologram nodded slowly. Prepare yourselves, Ambassador. What I am about to show you will change everything you believe about the universe. Silence had never felt so heavy. Drevin stood before the Galactic Assembly, 17 species watching him with expressions ranging from disbelief to terror. The hologram that called itself Warden 9 floated beside him, waiting patiently for the chaos to settle. For 3 hours, Drevin had explained everything he had learned. For 3 hours, the Assembly had argued, shouted, and wept. This is madness, declared the delegate from the outer colonies. You expect us to believe that humanity became gods and have been protecting us in secret for 20,000 years. Not gods, Warden 9 corrected gently. Simply different. We evolved beyond physical form, but we are not divine. We make mistakes, we feel fear, and we are dying. That last word cut through the noise. The assembly fell silent. Dying, Drevin repeated. Explain. Warden 9's form flickered. When we transcended, 12 billion human minds joined the collective. Today, fewer than 3 million remain. The rest have been lost to the enemy we have been fighting, the enemy that is now coming for all of you. A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing the galaxy surrounded by vast emptiness. But the emptiness was not truly empty. Something moved within it, something so large that it made stars look like dust. We call it the Hollow, Warden 9 continued. It is older than this galaxy, older than most galaxies. It does not consume matter, it consumes meaning, identity, purpose, everything that makes a civilization what it is. Species touched by the Hollow do not die, they simply forget. They forget their history, their culture, their reason for existing. They become empty shells, going through the motions of life without understanding why. The assembly watched in horror as the display showed examples. Entire civilizations reduced to mindless automatons, billions of beings still breathing, still moving, but with nothing behind their eyes. This is what humanity has been fighting, Warden 9 said. This is why we transcended. Physical beings cannot resist the Hollow's influence. Only minds that exist beyond flesh can hold the line, but even we are not immune. Each year, more of us are consumed. Each year, the barriers we have built grow weaker. Why did you not tell us? Hala demanded. Why did you let us believe you were dead while you fought alone? Because knowing would not have helped you. You could not fight the Hollow, you could not even perceive it. We hoped to defeat it before it ever reached you. We were wrong. Drevin felt the weight of 20,000 years pressing down on him. His ancestors had spent their lives wondering what happened to humanity. Now he understood. They had not abandoned the galaxy, they had sacrificed themselves to protect it. What do you need from us? He asked. Warden 9 turned to face the assembly. The Hollow cannot be destroyed, but it can be pushed back. We have developed a weapon, a resonance pattern that reinforces identity and meaning, but transcended minds cannot use it. We have evolved beyond the imperfection that makes it work. I do not understand. The weapon requires emotion, Ambassador, real, messy, contradictory emotion, fear and hope, love and anger, doubt and faith. These things are weaknesses in transcended beings, but against the Hollow, they are the greatest strength. Only physical minds can carry this weapon, only physical humans. The implication was clear. The assembly began murmuring among themselves. You want us to rebuild humanity, Drevin said, using the archive ship. Yes, the ship contains genetic templates and stored memories, everything needed to create a new generation of humans, but we cannot do this alone. We need resources, we need expertise, we need the entire galaxy working together. And if we refuse? Warden Nine's form dimmed slightly. Then the hollow will reach this galaxy within 50 years. It will spread from system to system, civilization to civilization, until nothing remains but empty shells and forgotten names. You will not die, that would be merciful, you will simply cease to matter. The chamber erupted into debate, old rivalries surfaced, some species blamed others for problems that happened millennia ago, some demanded proof, others called for immediate action. Drevin watched his fellow delegates argue and felt something unexpected, hope, because despite all their differences, despite centuries of conflict and mistrust, they were all afraid of the same thing, and fear, properly directed, could become unity. "Enough," he shouted, his voice cutting through the noise. "We can argue about the past later. Right now, we must decide about the future. I am calling for a vote. Will we help rebuild humanity or not?" One by one, the delegates cast their votes. Some hesitated, others voted immediately. The tension in the chamber was unbearable. When the final tally appeared, Drevin allowed himself to breathe. For the first time in galactic history, the vote was unanimous. "It seems you have your answer," Drevin told Warden 9. The hologram nodded slowly, but its expression remained troubled. "Thank you, Ambassador, but I must warn you, the Hollow knows we have revealed ourselves. It is accelerating its approach. You have perhaps 5 years to rebuild what took us 10,000 years to create." 5 years, Drevin thought, 5 years to resurrect an entire species, 5 years to prepare for a war against something that consumed meaning itself. It was impossible, but then again, so was a ghost ship returning after 20,000 years. "Then we had better start immediately," Drevin said. "Show us what to do." Rain fell on a world that had never known human footsteps. The planet called New Terra orbited a yellow star much like Earth's ancient sun, and on its surface, enormous facilities worked day and night to accomplish the impossible. Inside one of those facilities, a woman opened her eyes for the first time. Her name was Sira. She had chosen it herself from the archive's records. It meant angel in a language that had not been spoken in 20,000 years. She was physically 20 years old, but inside her mind lived the memories of countless generations. She knew poetry she had never read. She remembered music she had never heard. She understood love and loss and hope, though she had experienced none of them personally. "How do you feel?" asked Warden 9, the transcended human's holographic form flickering beside her bed. Sira considered the question carefully. "Strange, I know who I am supposed to be, but I am not certain who I actually am. Is that normal?" "For someone in your position, yes, you carry implanted memories, but they are not your memories, they are gifts from those who came before. What you do with them is entirely your choice." 3 years had passed since the Assembly's vote. 10,000 new humans now walked the surface of New Terra. Each had been grown from genetic templates. Each carried implanted cultural memories, and each struggled with the same question Sira had asked: who were they really? Sira rose from her bed and walked to the window. Outside, she could see her fellow humans training. Ships flew overhead, carrying supplies and specialists from 17 different species. The entire galaxy had come together for this moment. Aliens who had never agreed on anything now working side by side to resurrect a species they barely remembered. "The war is coming," she said quietly. "I can feel it, even without being told. I know something terrible approaches." "You are correct. The Hollow's vanguard has entered the outer regions of the galaxy. Millions of Hollow-touched beings from civilizations that fell long ago. They will reach the inner systems within a year. And we are supposed to stop them, 10,000 of us against millions." Warden 9 moved closer. "You will not be alone. The galaxy's fleets will fight beside you, and the Transcended Collective will engage the Hollow directly. But yes, you are the key, only you can carry the weapon." Sira had learned about the weapon, a resonance pattern that reinforced identity and meaning. It could not be launched from a ship or deployed through technology. It had to be carried in living hearts, felt through genuine emotion, broadcast through the very act of being human. "Show me," she said. Over the following months, Sira trained alongside her people. They learned to fight with weapons, but more importantly, they learned to feel. Transcended instructors taught them to channel fear without being controlled by it, to embrace hope without becoming naive, to love without losing themselves. Between training sessions, something unexpected happened. The new humans began creating. They wrote poetry and painted pictures. They composed music and told stories. They fell in love and formed families, even knowing they might have only months to live. "This is inefficient," Warden 9 observed one evening, watching a group of humans singing around a fire. "You should be resting for tomorrow's exercises." Sira smiled. "This is what makes us human. We do not just survive, we live, we create meaning even when everything seems meaningless. That is why the Hollow cannot understand us. That is why we might actually win." Warden 9 was silent for a long moment. "I had forgotten 20,000 years of transcendence, and I had forgotten what it felt like to simply exist, to enjoy a moment without calculating its strategic value." "Then sit with us, listen to the music, remember what you used to be." The hologram hesitated, then slowly lowered itself to the ground beside Sira. For the first time in millennia, a transcended human simply sat and listened to a song. News arrived the next morning. A scouting mission had found a hollow-touched region at the galaxy's edge. An entire civilization reduced to empty shells, billions of beings still alive but with nothing behind their eyes. Sira led a team to investigate. What she found haunted her. The hollow-touched did not attack, they simply stared, going through routines that no longer had meaning, eating food they could not taste, speaking words they could not understand. One of them approached Sira and opened its mouth, but only silence came out. It had forgotten how to communicate. "This is what awaits all of us," she told her team. "Not death, something worse, complete erasure of everything we are." A young human named Ren stepped forward. "Then we cannot lose, we cannot forget. Whatever happens, we have to remember who we are." Sira placed her hand on his shoulder. "We will, I promise." When they returned to New Terra, Sira addressed all 10,000 humans. She told them what she had seen. She told them what they were fighting for. She told them that the enemy was vast and ancient and utterly without mercy. And then she told them something else. "We were created for war, that is true, but we have chosen to be more than weapons. We have chosen to love and create and hope, and that choice is our greatest strength. The Hollow cannot understand why we sing when we should be sleeping, why we paint when we should be training, why we love when we know we might die." She raised her voice. "Let it come, let it bring its millions of empty soldiers. We will meet them with 10,000 hearts full of meaning, and we will remind the universe what it means to be alive." The humans roared their approval, and somewhere in the void between galaxies, something ancient and empty turned its attention toward the sound. Stars died in silence as the Hollow advanced. Its vanguard stretched across the void, billions of empty shells from 100 consumed civilizations, moving without purpose toward a galaxy that still remembered how to hope. Sira stood on the bridge of the flagship Remember, watching the darkness approach. Her 10,000 humans waited behind her, their hearts beating with fear and determination. "The Transcended Collective is engaging," Warden 9 reported. 3 million minds against infinite emptiness. We will buy you as much time as we can." Sira could not see the battle, but she felt it. Somewhere beyond physical perception, transcended humans were throwing themselves against the Hollow, minds like stars fighting a void that swallowed everything. Thousands of them vanished in seconds, their ancient consciousnesses simply ceasing to exist. "They are dying," she whispered. "Yes, but they are giving you a chance, do not waste it." The vanguard reached the galactic fleet. 17 species fought side by side, their weapons lighting up the darkness, but conventional weapons could not truly harm hollow-touched soldiers. They simply kept coming, their empty eyes reflecting nothing. "All humans," Sira broadcast, "begin the song." It started quietly, 10,000 voices humming a melody that came from nowhere and everywhere. The tune was not beautiful in any traditional sense. It was raw and imperfect, filled with the wobbles and cracks of amateur singers, but within that imperfection lay something powerful, something the Hollow had never encountered. Meaning. The resonance spread outward like ripples in water. Where it touched hollow-touched soldiers, they hesitated, some stopped moving entirely, others began twitching, as if trying to remember something they had lost long ago. "It is working," Warden 9 said. "Keep going." Sierra felt the song building inside her, all the emotions she had experienced in her short life. The fear of dying, the joy of creation, the warmth of friendship, the ache of uncertainty about her own identity. She poured everything into the resonance, and her people did the same. The hollow itself recoiled. For the first time in its eternal existence, it had encountered something it could not understand, beings that embraced their imperfection, that found strength in doubt, that created meaning out of nothing and defended it with their lives. "I am going in," Sierra announced, "keep the song alive." Before anyone could stop her, she launched her small vessel directly into the heart of the hollow's presence. The darkness swallowed her, cutting off all communication, all sensation, all light. Inside the hollow, Sierra experienced absolute emptiness. It pressed against her mind, trying to find something to consume, but she did not fight it. Instead, she did something unexpected. She remembered. She remembered the fire on New Terra and the songs her people sang. She remembered Ren's determination and Warden Nine's growing rediscovery of emotion. She remembered the poetry she had read from the archives and the paintings she had created between training sessions. She remembered the feeling of rain on her skin and the sound of laughter and the taste of food shared with friends. These memories were hers, not implanted, not inherited, hers. The hollow paused. For the first time it was receiving rather than taking. Sierra's emotions flowed into its emptiness, not filling it, but showing it what it had been missing, what meaning felt like, what purpose tasted like, what it meant to be alive. "You are so lonely," she whispered into the void. "You have been alone for so long that you forgot there was any other way to be." The hollow trembled. Outside, the transcended collective saw their opportunity. They wrapped chains of pure concept around the hollow, binding it to the meaning Sierra had given it, anchoring it to something other than endless hunger. The hollow screamed, a sound that existed in no physical spectrum but shook the foundations of reality itself. And then, slowly, it began to retreat, pulling back into the void between galaxies, carrying fragments of human memory with it. Sierra's vessel drifted free, barely functional. She was alive, though she could not explain how. When she opened her eyes, Warden 9 was there, no longer a hologram but somehow physical, standing in the wreckage of her ship. "You did it," they said, their voice thick with an emotion they had not felt in millennia. "We did it," Sierra corrected, "all of us." The aftermath was quiet. 7,000 humans had survived. Along with perhaps 100,000 transcended minds, the galaxy was scarred but intact. The hollow was not destroyed, nothing could truly destroy it, but it had changed. It had experienced something other than emptiness, and that experience had transformed it. 1 year later, Sierra returned to Earth. The planet was wild and beautiful. 20,000 years of nature reclaiming what humanity had abandoned. Standing in the ruins of an ancient city, she watched the sun rise over mountains that had witnessed the birth of her species. "We are home," she said softly. Beside her, Warden 9, now permanently physical, smiled. "Not just home, a beginning. Everything starts again from here." In Sierra's arms, a baby cried, the first human born naturally in 20,000 years. Sierra had named her Hope, a name she had chosen herself, not from any archive. Across the galaxy, the song continued, humans and aliens singing together, creating meaning where there had been silence, and in the void between galaxies, something that had once known only emptiness hummed a fragment of melody, learning slowly, painfully, beautifully what it meant to exist. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors or saviors, but as what they had always been. Storytellers, dreamers, creators of meaning in a universe that had almost forgotten how to hope. And this time they would not vanish. This time they would stay.